Hey everybody, I'm Steve Rosenbaum here with my partner in crime, Erica Matsumoto, and we are at 370 J Street. Well, we're not at 370 J Street, but we're virtually at 370 J Street for the second in a four-part series of the NYC Media Lab open house. I have to tell you, Erica, just looking at those images, walking down the hall, first of all, it brings back great memories, and secondly, I get a little antsy, like, can we get back there like soon? Much as I love this, digital thing, being back in the building would be nice.
One day soon enough.
So today we're going to talk about the Verizon5G Retail Challenge, and we're going to introduce you to three amazing companies. You're going to get to see their work, and we're going to meet our friends from Verizon. We're going to talk about kind of the idea behind the program. But to begin with, I just wanted to remind people of the strength of the NYC Media Lab in terms of our university and corporate members, and maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so at our core, NYC Media Lab is a university consortium. So even though we're housed within NYU's engineering school, we work closely with faculty and researchers and graduate students across not only NYU, but Columbia, the New School, Pratt, CUNY, School of Visual Arts, and Manhattan College. We are supported by a roster of excellent corporate members that includes companies like Verizon, as well as Viacom, the New York Times, AMC Networks, Estee Lauder, amongst others.
By the way, just not to go backwards, but the New York Times presentation last week, if you haven't watched that program, you should jump back into your either Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are, and take a look, because it's mind-blowing. It was really amazing. So the thing about the Media Lab is we focus on core technologies like data science, spatial computing, future interfaces, and creative technology, which includes synthetic media, digital storytelling, creative coding, UI and UX. I mean, we really are at the forefront of all of these smart people. And last but not least, three basic areas where our programs take place: corporate innovation, which is prototyping projects like the one you're about to see; venture platform, which is our startups and accelerators, which is at the Combine; and then last but not least, executive education. So today we're going to take a look at the Verizon 5G Retail Challenge. Erica, maybe just like a sentence or two about what the challenge entails.
Yeah, our challenge this year with the Verizon 5G Labs team aimed to bring in startups and university fellows to work together to identify really interesting use cases of 5G as it pertains to the future of retail. So how can 5G and edge computing unlock new ways for customers to experience commerce and retail? How can we bridge the gap between digital and brick and mortar and find new ways to build in analytics?
Next, I want to bring in Christian Grinalda, who is the director of the Verizon 5G Labs, to talk about the program. So start with just an easy question, but just so that we understand and our viewers and listeners understand. What is the 5G Lab? Where does it sit in the organization, and kind of where did it come from?
Sure. So the 5G Lab is it's not, when you picture what a lab is in your mind right now, it's not soldering irons and a bunch of technical stuff going on. It's really about the ecosystem around 5G. And back in 2017, even before we launched it in market, we said, okay, 4G changed the world, right? You've got apps on your phone and your device that you wouldn't be able to do what you do today if you didn't have them. And so that happened on top of the 4G network, but the 5G network is exponentially more powerful. And so we wanted folks outside the company to work with us to come out with, well, what's the next big thing, right? And if you had the chance to go and build an Uber or build a unicorn startup before the App Store opened, you'd probably take a swing at it. And so that's what we're trying to go and do through the 5G Labs. And they're across the country and across the globe now. And what we do there is we host events and meetups and hackathons to educate folks about what 5G actually is, that it's a supercomputer in your pocket, that it's the changing of how you build applications and hardware. And we start with that, and then we say, what would you use it for? Because startups like the ones that we've worked with together at the Media Lab are the ones that are obsessed about solving those problems for their customers. And so by giving them access to those test beds, to things like edge computing, to engineers that help them along the way, we can build the realm of the possible and actually show that it's possible. So we can drive, a better outcome for our customers and society to faster.
All right, awesome. So shifting a little bit towards the program partnership that we did with your team this year, our challenge explored applications of 5G in retail, and we brought in 5 startups as well as university fellows to build on the 5G network and identify really interesting use cases. What are you seeing in the market today, given the challenges in the retail sector? What are some compelling sort of ideas or sort of solutions that you're seeing that you're really excited about?
Totally. And looking back at the program, it was super timely, right? And a lot of the ideas that you'll hear about today from some of the participants are relevant now even more than ever. And as a company, Verizon's done a whole heck of a lot to change the way that we engage with our customers. It starts with the sort of safety of our teams, our employees, and the folks that we interact with. But we're shifting the way that we do business, and we're doing that super rapidly, and we're doing that in a sort of innovative way. I'll give you an example now. If our folks in the field can use an app to video chat with the customer when they're on site, and they can do that in real time. We found really interesting ways to digitize the store experience and make sure that social distancing and self-checkout and self-service tools are all being utilized and scaled, right? The workforce is all working from home for the most part, for folks that don't have mission critical roles to play within the company. So that it's innovation through necessity, right? And when we start to put constraints on the way that we need to go and do business, well, there's really great things that come out of it. So we're seeing all those types of innovation come out just from our teams, and we've even done an employee-wide challenge. So 150,000+ employees who are living and working in this environment, coming up with ideas for us to solve how we do business today, come up with ideas for our customers for the future, and hopefully create good opportunity to have society be stronger than ever when we come out the tail end of this thing.
So I got to ask this question. I mean, you're not a little company.
You've got tons of smart people. You've got PhDs. You've got lots of brilliant people. What makes Verizon say, we want to do an open challenge and bring in these feisty startups? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, well, there's some fight and feisty, right? People, they're, like I said, they're obsessed about solving these problems, and you hear this story behind the founders and what got them to the idea that they've built. They have a perspective that I could never have, right? And so when we look at some of these areas, and sure, we do these in areas that are relevant to Verizon, so they're not things completely out of left field, but we need to make sure that we're not subscribing to the not invented here philosophy. And I think when you sort of operate within those walled gardens, then you're missing out on ideas, and those ideas can come from anywhere, right? They can come from the student who's got a residency or an internship, the 5-person startup that just identified a problem that they can uniquely solve in a novel way. We also really think about how these new toolkits can get put into these innovators' hands, and we want to make sure it's not just the big companies that can take advantage of 5G. We want to make sure everybody gets access to the development tools, the edge computing, because we think the next wave of innovation is going to be the next wave of startups. So we want to do right by the ecosystem today and make sure they get access, just like big partners do as well.
So in terms of where the 5G Labs team is today, given our current public health crisis and our global pandemic, like, what's next for you and the team? How are you going to sort of adapt to our current crisis
Yeah.
and plan for the year ahead.
Yeah. You know, look, it's eye-opening. And I think when you think about the team, we're all, you know, we're all remote now. Everybody brings a different perspective, right? We've got folks that have families, we've got folks that don't, we've got you know, folks that have to consider you know, friends and loved ones. You know, I'm at home now with 2 little ones, and you know, my wife's working at the hospital still. So, you know, we've got to all figure out ways to push through. And what I've seen is people are super resilient, and I think I feel like the connection that we're making with folks through things like this, where we're talking, and you know, I've got a creaky fan, and I've got a 5-year-old running to bang down the door here in a second, and his 2-year-old sister, you know, banging him down every couple of minutes. That people, even though we're apart, we're a little bit closer, because we're right now we're in each other's homes, and I think that there's a certain level of empathy there, a certain level of you know, making connections, and I think the team is doing a heck of a job adapting to it. And for us, you know, it's I can't put a 5G phone in everybody's hands to have them experience what it's like to use some of these new tools and experiences. So we're trying to adapt pretty quickly. What's you know, one of the things we're doing is an event series. So in the next, you know, couple days, if you go to Verizon5Glabs.com, we've got virtual events. Lots of them, some of them in you know, VR with partners, and we're figuring out what are these new ways to create community and engage people and educate them. We're thinking about, well, how can I take an entire physical 5G lab and put it into a virtual environment so we can all join there together. And we're doing that for, you know, a customer, and we'll do it for the startup, and we'll bring some students there so they can go and see, you know, a dinosaur in a museum that they can't get to today, right? And
Yeah.
those are the types of things that the companies that are joining today are solving for, right? Echo AR is trying to figure out how I can bring the dinosaur to your house, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually saw that there's like a VR filmmaking event I think you guys have coming up, which is really cool, really interesting, about like filmmaking using VR for
Yeah.
production.
And look, these are super relevant themes, right? If we can't get to a theatrical experience, what do you do at home to make it more interactive? If you know, if we did one event last week with a hospital in Boston and the American Heart Association, talking about the future of telehealth. And, you know, how do I stay connected to doctors and loved ones and folks like that? We're taking the telepresence robots that roam around the 5G labs, and we've given them to hospitals and nursing homes, so that, you know, the patients who might not be able to see their loved ones if they're in isolation, or you know, they can't get out, can find new ways to stay connected. So, you know, we're trying to do the best we can. I think, you know, even the challenge for employees, we're making donations based off of the winning submissions. So like we're trying to make Verizon do right by society and help our customers and engage our employees and still work with the ecosystem. Because when we get out of this thing, it'll be you know, we talk about the new normal. Well, in that new world, 5G and Verizon will be there to make sure that connection's there. And then for us to collectively come up with, hey, what does a retail store of the future experience look like? What does it mean when I go into a grocery store? What does a mall look like? It has that e-commerce and digital experience start to blend, and where do these new 5G and edge computing toolkits really come into play?
Christian, thank you so much. We're going to look at 3 companies now, and
Really appreciate working with you and look forward to doing more.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.